T34, step aside, there is a new kid on the block. The Bofors Tornvagn, a Swedish Tier VIII Heavy tank. Presumably premium, because at the moment we are missing the Emil 1951. A quick overview of this tank: it is a 400 alpha gun with atrocious gun handling, really bad mobility and very good armor. That is the Bofors Tornvagn. So let's just jump right in and let's have a look at 3 other Tier VIII heavy tanks. That being the T34, the 50 TP prototype and the Škoda T56. The Tornvagn comes with a 400 alpha gun with 248mm of base penetration, which has APCR, and 297 as gold penetration on its APCR as well. 60mm of HE pen with 515 alpha, giving it a quite decent chunk of additional damage if you decide to use said HE. You have a 14-second reload time, giving you a base DPM of 1714 with a 2-second aim time. Comparing that to the T34, we can already see that we are a little bit ahead when it comes to the DPM, because they have a second quicker reload time. However, we are still rather poor when we compare it to the 50 TP prototype, a pretty decent Tier VIII heavy tank, and the Škoda T56, one of the strongest Tier VIII heavy tanks and the recent tank wargaming released. One big point I already see about the Bofors Tornvagn is that it kind of has the problem the Škoda T56 has. There is no point for you as a customer of this product to not use premium rounds except when you want to make more money. The standard rounds and the premium rounds are both of the type APCR. The premium rounds does have around 49mm more penetration for you to chew through enemies, and you also have 450 meters per second higher shell velocity. So really there is no reason for you to argue against using the premium rounds except for I wanna make more money while hampering myself in the ability to do so. Which is kind of annoying. I would have wished to see something else, maybe like a low velocity heat round or an AP round, which could have been also quite an interesting idea. But yeah, that is a bit to the gun of the Tornvagn. Moving on to the gun handling, here the more interesting things are starting to happen, because the Tornvagn is torn apart here. You have a 2-second aim time, which is the best of all those 4 tanks we can compare with. T34 has 3.2, then we have 3, another 3, but the accuracy is 0.45. That is 0.1 more than what the T34 has to offer, and it's even worse than what the Škoda T56 has, an objectively inaccurate tank. To that, we have 0.11 hull accuracy, meaning if you don't move your turret, you are fairly accurate on the move, but as soon as you start to use your oddly shaped turret, you're going to have 0.25 multiplier to this inaccuracy. And as you can see, that is more than twice as bad than what the 50 TP prototype or the Škoda has to offer. So it's very awkward that this tank is so weirdly inaccurate in that regard. Like, I generally don't, I guess I kind of see what Wargaming wants to do, but it's very weird. We will see in a second why this high turret modifier makes a sense, because that thing is probably one of the best Tier VIII hull down tanks in the game when it comes to the armor. We also have the 10 degrees of gun depression, which is totally a-okay, and we can totally work with, but it's also basically at the standard for any hull down heavy tank on Tier VIII. Before we move on, I want to say, if you enjoy such content like this, straight to the point and giving you all the necessary details about upcoming tanks, don't forget to leave a comment, and there's obviously a subscription. That would be amazing, because then you're always up to date with everything World of Tanks related. And with that, let's move on to the mobility, which is bad. It's the worst of the bunch which we have right here. Its 42 kph top speed doesn't evoke any joy, and the 12 kph in reverse is not good either, but you can work with it as did the T34. The biggest problem, however, for the Tornvagn comes from its under-motorized engine. 500 horsepower, giving it an HP to ton ratio of 11.6. That is absurdly bad, and it genuinely gives you not a good feeling when you're trying to drive into hold down positions, especially on a hill, for example. So when you want to go on, for example, Mines Hill, you will be one of the last people to arrive in your hold down position. Maybe you think, I want to go hold down on the Chinese border map or Empire's border map. Well, you are screwed over there as well, because you're way too slow to get up there. Himmelsdorf Hill, same deal. Malinovka Hill, same deal. So this will be a big problem. I know you might say, but you're going to use a turbocharger anyway. That is true, and you can boost it to around 48 kph top speed and I think around 16 kph in reverse. Yet the power to weight ratio will stay around at maximum 12.5, which is just plain bad. And that's sad. That's genuinely sad, because, you know, we wanted to have a little bit of mobility would be okay. I can live with bad top speed, but if the engine power as well is bad, it makes this tank very meh, in my opinion. However, the terrain resistances are fairly okay, 1.2, 1.3 and 2.1 being one of the best stats we have, except for the Skoda, which is slightly better on hard and medium terrain. But when it comes to soft terrain, it is the best of the bunch, which is pretty decent. However, mobility-wise, we also have the very bad turret and hull traverse speeds, which are just 22 degrees per second, 24 and 26 for the T34, and the rest is just better again. So yes, you have to plan ahead, because you're going to turn like a battleship. To the survivability, and here you will see why the Tornvagn is trading in so much. You have 1600 hit points, which is pretty decent. It's actually quite a lot. 260 millimeter of hull armor. 50 millimeter sides, so we can forget about the sides. The turret armor, 280 and 90 on the sides. That is pretty strong. And you have 360 meters of view range, which is useless. Seriously, that is so bad. I think there's not even a point in trying to use optics with this tank. Like, the thing is, the T34 actually can get, with bounty vents and rations, to go around 445 meters of view range, if you decide to do so with both cruise skills, and that's with 380 meters. So it's on the cusp of being possible. For the Tornvagn, you can forget about that. Like, you need to use optics if you want to have full view range, and it will still be rather close to get it actually. But yeah, the armor values on the paper are insanely strong. However, I do want to point out, don't forget, the CS63, the Polish Tier 10 medium tank, does also have 260 millimeters of turret armor in the front, but it's only on the cheeks around the gun mantlet. Super small, super hard to hit. The Tornvagn, on the other hand, as you can see from this picture, again looks fairly strongly armored. Not only do we have this plate up here, you can see it's fairly thick, so I would say this is the 260 millimeter of hull armor. You also have the turret with the turret cheeks, which most likely are the 280 millimeter. Yes, this plate and this plate you can see from the seam do look less strong, but this part down here also looks fairly strong. So this Tornvagn will most likely be an incredible strong hull down machine with just a weak spot in the lower plate. You also see something over here peeking around. That would be the cupola of this vehicle, but looking at those sketches from the forum where somebody did propose the Tornvagn as a tier 10 medium or heavy tank for the Swedish Tech Tree, you can see this cupola is incredible flat angled, meaning that you will not be able to use this as a weak spot in most situations, or most likely you are not going to use this. And if you now look at this setup right here, the only chance you might have for this tank to have a weak spot would be this spot right here if this is flat, but I highly doubt it will. And you can see that the turret from the front just looks absurdly. You know, it's basically a Concept 1B turret on steroids, because you don't have a cupola, you only have some optics, you can see them right here. That's about it. It will be super hard for the enemy to most likely penetrate your turret tank. However, obviously this is just assumptions. We don't know how Wargaming decides to balance its vehicles when it comes to weak spots, so we have to keep an eye out for that. But chances are the Tornvagn is generally going to trade DPM, gun handling and mobility to have the best armor in the game on tier 8 for being a hold down tank, because you are not having any weak spots. So you might say, but Raging, that sounds incredibly overpowered. Do you like this? Yes, I generally do, because I don't think it's overpowered. Again, the Bofors Tornvagn, and you could have seen it when we compare it to the T34, he trades a lot for that turret. He genuinely trades a whole bunch of stats to be able to, you know, be this. You have very bad accuracy, you have pretty bad DPM, you have much worse mobility than the T34 has to offer. However, you have more hit points and you have that massive turret without any obvious weak spots at the moment. So you do have a big lower plate, so this will most likely be the biggest weak spot in general. I don't like this. I don't dislike this concept. Like, I think this is fine. If, for example, I saw some people saying that this could be a tier 9 or even a tier 10 tank, and somebody said, I don't really want to see this to be shoehorned on tier 8 yet again. Like, for example, the WZ 113-2 is. But I kind of see where Wargaming comes with this vehicle. If they would put it on tier 9 or even tier 10, they would need to give it something else, maybe a very good DPM, and then you suddenly have a tank with pretty good hold down armor, which can only be reliably penetrated if you spam premium rounds, while also most likely having to give it more speed as well, you know, so it's compatible or competitive at tier 9 or tier 10, and suddenly we have a tank like the Concept 1B. So now I'd rather have this vehicle, which is fairly slow or very slow, with atrocious gun handling on tier 8, rather than having a way overbuffed version on tier 9 or even tier 10. So overall, I think the Bofors Tornvagn will be a fairly okayish balanced vehicle for now. And it will most likely be the tank to replace the Emil 1951 for making credits in the Swedish tech tree. I still think that Wargaming should reconsider giving this tank APCR's premium rounds, maybe give it something else like an AP or maybe a heat round with very low shell velocity, and I still think giving this tank a bit more horsepower would be fair for this tank. However, we obviously do not know which part of the field modification tree it has, because this could also partially influence what exactly you're going to get when it comes to mobility. Anyway, my name is RagingRaptor. Thank you so much for watching. Obviously, as already mentioned, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already to be always up to date with everything World of Tanks related. And don't forget to comment on this tank what you think, because not only does it give me a good idea what you like about this tank and what you dislike, but it's also a way for YouTube to show them that you are an active community and I'm a good content creator. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you around.